Hello. If you've ever attended a high school prom, you know that there's probably one thing that most high school proms are missing. And no, it is not fun, a good DJ, or like food that isn't cold. No, this one thing is something that has been missing from every high school prom I have attended. I've attended 3. And that is people dressed like they're in the fucking Lord of the Rings. Now you might ask yourself, Kaz, why do you want to see this at a high school prom? My answer is, why don't you want to see this at a high school prom? I've got a sword, I've got armor on. This is potentially the coolest and sexiest outfit I own. Now some of you might also ask, Kaz, why did you decide to make armor for your senior prom? And you know, the answer to that is, I just felt like it, and I wanted to look fancy, and I wanted to be cool. Anyways, now it's time to actually go to the studio and make the armor. Yes, I filmed this in post. No, I did not remember to film an intro at the beginning of this video. I lied. Actually, I want you guys to look at my prom dress first. The first step in this process was finding a prom dress that would work with armor, and I'm about to show you approximately 15 photos of me trying on different dresses, which caused me varying levels of dysphoria. I'm making my mental health issues into a joke here, and I probably shouldn't put this in my video for class, but it's funny. Anyways, wow, look, it's Kaz in a dress. Kaz in a dress, oh my god, is Kaz in a dress? What? Oh my god, it's crazy. It's Kaz in a dress. Anyways, this is the one I picked. I look really sad in this picture for some reason. Yes, I'm a trans guy. Yes, I'm wearing a dress to prom. If you've got a problem with that, well, you know, this is foam, by the way. But it's the thought that counts. I'm not. And that's me giving a thumbs up because I covered myself in tape to start making a pattern for this. So yeah, once you got your tape, you throw it on the ground. Oh my god, it's tape. It's a pattern. Wow, it's 3D. And then you get some moldable plastic, and you put it on the plastic and you trace it. And that was really hard to do, so I didn't film it. Anyways, once you've got that, what you're gonna do, you're just gonna blast it with the heat gun. And I mean like really blast it. You've got this thing like limp. I hate the way I said that. Anyways, I didn't film me molding it, but here it is. You can see it's on my shoulder now. Wow, it fits my shoulder. It's still a little floppy because this stuff takes forever to cool down, especially when the room is very warm. But yeah, you can see me, I adjusted it a little bit while it was on my body, while it was still warm, because it needed that. Then I traced out some arm guard patterns and transferred them to my moldable thermoplastic. And then used a PVC pipe to mold those into a rounder shape, so that they would contour to my arm and be more comfortable than just a flat thing. And then I pinched them to give them a bit of a more, like, gothic knight armor shape, sort of mimicking like elven styles from Lord of the Rings, just because that's the aesthetic that I really wanted. This was kind of difficult because it kept wanting to shape back to its previous shape or bend too much. So then I had all of my shoulder pieces. So I had my main shoulder piece, which I added a little ridge to just to look cool. And I had my arm guards. I made 3 of them. Each one was a little bit smaller than the next. And then, you know, I guess it's important to point out the fact that I'd already done this entire project, but I hated the way it looked and felt, so I decided to redo it. There's the elbow guard. I ended up using that. Those were previous arm guards, and I just didn't get time to blast some more stuff and drop my phone. We're talking about this. The reason I'm doing all this is because I wanted to make a fancy dress for prom, but I wanted to have armor on it because that's cool and I like it. So anyways, I'm gonna remold the bracer by putting a piece of leftover thermoplastic on it. And there you can see it's on there. I had to smooth out a little crack in it, but it looks much more smooth and professional now than it did before. And it all holds together much better. You can see this is pretty flimsy. So I'm gonna add here another layer of thermoplastic. Here's me blasting it. You've gotta blast it. Blast that paper. It's not paper. Blasting it, blasting the thermoplastic. And here's the carnage of me making decorations. R.I.P. little star, you will be forever in our hearts and forever in our minds. I miss you. But now is not the time to grieve, it's time to decorate this shit. So, yeah, get your stuff, get your loops, get all your silver bits. And then here's a really bad time lapse of me drilling holes in it before I had to go to a meeting that I really didn't want to go to, so I'm rushing really bad, and it shows because the holes are kind of ugly looking. And then I took a break because I was tired, and I taught this ferret how to play the piano, and I thought that was important just to put in the middle of this video. Because, you know, like, look at him.
Would you like to get down?
Appreciate this. Yeah, and here's him running around. Like, there were 3 of them. It was in music class. It was great. Well-deserved break from working on this thing. Literally hours straight. Look at them. Anyways, so then I started spray painting stuff, and I forgot to film part of it, but here's me putting on a brown base coat because I ran out of black base coat, and here's me filming it really poorly.
What are you doing? Wow.
Yeah, it's hard to spray paint and film.
Canceling Chase for his homophobic rhetoric.
Look at those beautiful tiles. Wow, you can totally see what's happening here. Anyways, look, it's all shiny, and this is going to prevent it from getting sticky, because every time I've done this before, it's gotten horrifically sticky and gotten paint everywhere, and I can't afford to get paint on my $200 prom dress, because that would just be sad. Yeah, I dropped my phone again. It looks like shit. I forgot to film me painting them silver. They're silver now. Wow. Yippee! Wow, look how beautiful that is. It's so shiny, so luxurious. Just out of a fantasy novel. Wow! So beautiful. Now to make them grimy. You get your Mod Podge, you get your paint. You get brushes. You mix all of that up in a cup, and you goo. And then you just start smudging it all over your stuff and wiping it off, and that gives a little bit of texture and contour that really isn't visible unless you emphasize it with black. This is a technique I learned from watching way too many cosplay and costuming videos during the pandemic. But yeah, you just do that. You can do it with really any kind of paint, but I just like acrylic and Mod Podge because it seals it down really well, and it doesn't chip, and it also gives it a bit of a matte look, which I just like in contrast with the shininess of the armor. So yeah, I just finished that up on that little medallion, and then I was ready to attach my decorations, because I want this thing to be fancy as hell. So I printed out those little stars earlier, and you can see here I'm going to attach them with chain to those holes. So here's me doing that. I made this chain by hand during that meeting I didn't want to go to, and then I just attached all of it to my armor. I wanted to give this sort of like a dangly royal look. I didn't want it to look like functional armor. I wanted it to look like something someone would wear to, like, just for, like, ceremonial purposes, and I just wanted to keep with the general star motif that I've been using in a lot of my work lately. So yeah, I used a combination of leftovers from other projects for this, so a lot of those silver loops there are leftover from a different jewelry project I did, and a lot of the other materials are recycled as well. So here's just more attaching them. They were really difficult to attach because they were plastic, so they kept shattering and I kept having to print more of them. But in the end, I managed to get all 3 attached, and it looked really good. So here's me trying it on for the first time. It wasn't sitting quite right, but it looked really good. And then here's me attempting to untangle the world's most tangled piece of chain so I could add more dangly things. This was hellish. It was hellish. I think I finally got one there. So yeah, I then taped everything together just to see how it was going to lay on my arm, and then I stretched out some elastic straps around my arm. So the reason I'm using elastic here is so I don't have to adjust the belts all night when I'm dancing, because that will just suck, and it will just constantly stay tight to my arm. So I realized I had to take off my sweatshirt to do this. Anyways, so I measured it to my bare arm because the dress I'm wearing is sleeveless, and I made just make sure it was a little shorter than I needed it to be because it needs to stretch in order to hold things down. So I chopped that up, and then I began prepping and placing them to make sure that the placement was correct so I wouldn't have to redo it, because I learned my lesson. So anyways, here I am trying it on with the elastic taped onto it, and you can see now it fits much more snugly on my arm and it's not sliding around as much until the tape failed, but it looked pretty good. So now it's time for my arch nemesis. All-purpose cement. I hate it. Goodbye to my dear friend super glue. It is now time for rubber cement. I never enjoy working with rubber cement. Every single time I do it, it smells so bad, it gets everywhere, and it doesn't work. And every time I do a project, I choose to use it because I believe that this time it will work for what I'm trying to do. I don't know if it's that I always mess up the drying time, or I don't give it enough time to like fully set to tackiness before I press the two sides together, but it's never great. Also, I filmed this part really badly. That's gonna be a theme for the rest of this video, is I filmed some things really poorly. For some reason this is in slow motion, so here's a slow motion video of me putting rubber cement on something you cannot see. Let's just take a moment to appreciate that. Okay, now we move on. So now that I'm done facing my arch nemesis, I clamped it all down with every single type of clamp we had. And then wow, this video quality gets bad here. Anyways, I started cutting some metal to make into clips. Because I needed loops for my harness, and I needed to make a prototype, but I didn't have any. So what I did instead was I made some really, really high quality ones out of an old sign. They're great. They were not great. So I attached them through this nylon, and then I made a harness, and it looks kind of bad, but it was adjustable, and it did what I needed to do, which is figure out how much material I was going to need, and it kept the armor on relatively well. You can see I get very excited here, and I'm showing it to Mr. HP. It worked. Yay! So now that I had, like, all of the things I needed, and I knew the measurements, I went out and I thrifted some belts. And you can see I didn't film it, but I attached them in sort of a, like, very janky way to make sure that they would work and that they were the right length and I cut them right. And then I began possibly the most frustrating part of this project, which was connecting the belts to the harness. So I thought I was just going to be able to get away with riveting them together. But really, as soon as I started taking it apart, I realized that there were two things preventing me from doing that. The first one was the fact that it just wasn't working. I was punching holes in it, I was putting rivets in it, and the rivet gun was too short to get the rivets through, so I started using like hammer-in rivets. Those were also too short or too long, so that just didn't work. You can see me here trying the rivet gun again after it not working. They were just too short. I ended up getting the rivet gun stuck to this and had to rip it out, but shh, it's okay, we're gonna fix it in post, we'll fix it in post. Yeah, this is sped up, and it just wasn't working. But I've committed far too much time to this to give up now. So I tried the punch rivets, I tried that for like an hour, it didn't work. I abandoned the hammer. Took it all apart. You can see me doing that here. By the way, these are just like thrifted belts. I think it cost me like $20 to get like 4 of them, and I only ended up using 3, so I'm probably going to use another one for a different project, but hot tip, if you need materials, thrift them. So you can see me here fruitlessly trying to get a hammer and rivet to work and then ripping it out. I damaged that wood so badly. Then I finally found something that kind of worked, which was I was using little tiny screws, which was really annoying, and you can see I blocked the camera here because I'm keep trying to lean over and get really close to it. The screws were eventually what I ended up going with, but the issue with them is that they came loose and lost their backs sometimes, so I'm probably going to pop some super glue on them at some point, just to make sure that they don't go anywhere. This took a very long time. I think this was actually like the longest and just least fun part of this process, but I think I learned a lot about like resetting and restarting with this project. So I ended up making some more little dangly, dazzly bits. You can see them there. By this point, it was dry, and I could take the clamps off of the rest of my project. So you can see here, it's all nice, the wire worked. And yeah, it came out pretty great. I had to redo some of the straps at one point just because they kept breaking. But you can see here's me taping them so I can prototype an attachment for the inside. I just used gaff tape. I really like gaff tape because it comes off easily, but it sticks really well. So I finally got to try on the thing that I've been working on for the past few weeks. This was a shorter build somehow than my other thing. Fell apart there. That's why you don't use tape permanently. But yeah, here it is. It looks fantastic, if I do say so myself. I may just end up going with the top part of it for the actual dance, but I'm definitely going to do a photo shoot with the full arm and the glove. The glove does not appear in this video because I did not bring it to school. It is a little hard to buckle. I will say that. You can see me struggling with the buckles here for a bit. I'll probably get someone to help me with that day of. And here's where I found another issue, which was that I had put the harness on backwards, but it's okay because I used screws. The screws actually ended up helping me. So I just ended up, after I took this shot, took it off, flipped the harness around, and it was fine. It looked better that way. It sat correctly. So sometimes it works out when you can't get the rivets to work. I'm really glad I didn't use rivets, actually, because the screws let me adjust things. So yeah, that's my project. You can see me fidgeting with it a lot here and just showing it off. And then Chase is in the background. Hi, Chase. He's gonna walk by and say something to me, and I'm gonna say something back to him. I'm sure it was extremely rude and a very toxic workplace environment. That's what we do. Anyways, I killed this thing. I hated it. It was so uncomfortable. Goodbye. So anyways, here is the finished product. You can see I removed the elbow guard because it looked bad, and I accidentally put the little star thing that goes right here on wrong. So I'm gonna have to fix that, but this is it. There's the hand. I actually made this hand for a different cosplay. This isn't a cosplay. I made this hand for a cosplay of my D&D character, who I put a gif in early in this video. I'm obsessed with D&D. Okay, now you can watch the montage of me wearing the final thing and looking cool. I just wanted you to look at them.